The heart of the game, Marcus, was a man who prided himself on playing the game of relationships. To him, dating wasn't about finding someone to build a life with, or sharing meaningful experiences. No, it was about control. It was about knowing the rules, manipulating the moves, and walking away when the fun was over. He wasn't cruel. He simply didn't understand any other way. He was 32, confident, attractive, and a well-known figure in his social circle. Marcus had perfected the art of winning women's attention. He knew how to charm them, how to make them laugh, how to make them feel like they were the center of his universe until they weren't. It wasn't that he used them maliciously. He just didn't care to dig deeper. Once the initial thrill of the chase wore off, he would start pulling back, withdrawing until they no longer made sense. And when that happened, he would let go. His friends envied him. "Man, you've got it figured out," they'd say. "You can get any woman you want, and you never get attached. You're the king of the game." They saw him as a master of the dating world, but Marcus didn't care much for their admiration. He wasn't after validation. He wasn't after anything that lasted. That is, until he met Emily. It was one of those warm, late spring nights in the city, the kind where the air felt like it had just the right amount of humidity, and the sky was streaked with pink and orange hues. Marcus had stepped into a popular downtown bar with his usual swagger, a slight smirk on his face as he scanned the crowd. He was always on the lookout for something new, someone who could offer him the excitement he craved. But that night, he wasn't expecting to meet someone like Emily. She was sitting alone at the far end of the bar, her glass of red wine catching the dim light from the chandeliers above. She wasn't making eye contact with anyone, wasn't flirting or pretending to be the life of the party. She was simply there, in her own space, quietly content. Marcus liked that. There was something about her calm demeanor that caught his attention, in a way that most women didn't. He couldn't quite figure it out, but it intrigued him. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, as he slid onto the bar stool next to her. His usual confident smile stretched across his face. Emily didn't flinch. She didn't fawn over him. Instead, she looked at him for a moment, her dark eyes unreadable, before offering a polite but unenthusiastic smile. Sure, her lack of excitement didn't faze him. In fact, it only piqued his interest more. They exchanged small talk at first, nothing remarkable, but there was a subtle intelligence in the way she spoke. She wasn't desperate for attention, nor was she trying too hard. She was comfortable in her own skin, and that was a rarity in a world full of people trying to be something they weren't. The conversation flowed easily, but there was something about her distance, her self-assuredness, that caught him off guard. The evening ended with him convincing her to go out for dinner, and while Marcus was used to women saying yes quickly, something about Emily felt different. She didn't gush over his compliments. She didn't hang on every word he said. She was polite, but there was a wall that kept her from fully engaging in his usual games. As they saw each other more frequently, Marcus found himself both fascinated and frustrated by her. He tried every trick in the book, subtle flirting, playful banter, the accidental touch of his hand on hers, but Emily remained composed, never chasing after him or fawning over him like the others. She was different, and Marcus didn't quite know how to handle it, but old habits die hard, and he kept playing the game. He kept the relationship light, casual. They'd meet up, share a few laughs, sleep together, and then part ways. It wasn't anything serious. At least, that's what he told himself. And, at first, that's what he wanted. But the more time he spent with Emily, the more he began to realize that she wasn't like the others. She was smart, independent, and confident in a way that kept him on his toes. She didn't demand attention, but when she spoke, she commanded it. She didn't chase after him, but there was a presence in the way she carried herself that made him feel like he had to keep up. And the more he tried to maintain his usual distance, the more he found himself drawn to her in a way that unsettled him. But Marcus didn't let himself get attached. That was the rule. He didn't invest emotionally. It was too risky, too vulnerable. Instead, he would keep things light. He would keep her at arm's length. He would always be the one in control. Until one evening, everything shifted. It was late a Sunday night and they were sitting at a small cafe, a quiet place with mismatched furniture and a cozy ambiance. It was one of those places where people went to have deep conversations, and for the first time, Marcus realized how much he dreaded the silence between them. He wasn't used to silence. He wasn't used to someone who didn't fill the void with nervous chatter. But there was something about Emily that made the quiet feel comforting, even if it made him feel exposed. She set her cup down, folding her hands in front of her. Her gaze was steady, unwavering. "Marcus," she began, her voice low but clear. "I need to ask you something." He felt a knot form in his stomach, an uneasy feeling that something was about to change. "Sure," he said, forcing a casual smile. "Why do you do it?" Her eyes locked onto his, and for the first time, he felt like she was seeing right through him. "Why do you treat relationships like a game? Why do you always keep people at arm's length?" Marcus froze for a second. He wasn't prepared for this. "What do you mean?" he said, though he could already feel the walls of his defenses starting to crumble. "You know exactly what I mean," Emily said, her voice calm but firm. "I've seen how you are with women. You play with their feelings, pull them in, make them feel special, and then, when they start to care too much, when they start wanting something real, you pull away. You keep them at a distance. You don't let anyone get close." Marcus felt a wave of discomfort wash over him. He wanted to laugh it off, to dismiss it as her misunderstanding. But deep down, he knew she was right. He had always kept things shallow. He had never allowed himself to get emotionally involved, because that would mean risking vulnerability, and vulnerability was something he couldn't afford. But Emily wasn't like the others. She didn't chase after him, didn't beg for his attention. She didn't need his validation. And that, in some strange way, made her both terrifying and captivating. "I don't know what you want me to say," he replied, the usual charm in his voice sounding hollow. "I want you to be honest with yourself," she said, her voice softening. "You keep playing with people's emotions, Marcus, but you don't realize that you're hurting them. And eventually, when they've had enough, you just move on to the next person. You leave a trail of broken people behind you, and I'm not going to be one of them." Her words struck him harder than anything else ever had. He had always considered himself a master of the game, but now, for the first time, he was beginning to see the consequences of his actions. The thrill of the chase, the joy of having control it all felt so shallow in that moment. What had he really built? What had he really experienced? Nothing. "I never meant to hurt you," he said quietly, finally feeling the weight of her words. But Emily was already standing up, her chair scraping against the floor. "I know," she said, her voice a mixture of sadness and resignation. "But that's the problem, Marcus. You never meant to hurt anyone, but you do." And just like that, she was gone. Marcus sat there in the empty cafe, the words echoing in his mind. He had always thought of himself as someone who controlled the game, but now, the game had slipped away from him. Emily had seen through his facade, and in doing so, she had shown him something he had never considered. The cost of using people, of treating relationships like disposable toys. In the days and weeks that followed, Marcus tried to move on. He dated other women, filled his nights with distractions, but something was missing. The games he had played, the thrill of the chase, all felt hollow. For the first time in his life, he felt a deep emptiness inside him. Emily had moved on, and Marcus couldn't help but think of the quiet strength she had shown in walking away. He realized too late that he'd pushed away the one person who might have made him see what real love was. And now, she was gone. And he was left alone with the painful truth that, in trying to play the game, he had lost everything that mattered. The lesson, unfortunately, came far too late.